Ho, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
Another episode, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode. We are here, ladies and gentlemen. We are here on this day, ladies and gentlemen, to discuss the matters of the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef. I gave it a few days to let the dust settle. I gave it a few days, ladies and gentlemen. I thought Kendrick might have followed up with something else, but Drake waved the white flag. Drake waved the white flag, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we could potentially be getting more from Kendrick Lamar, but ladies and gentlemen, even if we do, I think we're pretty much done at this point. I think we're pretty much ready to wrap this up and call it what it is, ladies and gentlemen. I think we are ready to wrap this up and call it what it is, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get deeper into this wrap up, ladies and gentlemen, this overview of the beef, ladies and gentlemen, we got to talk about an interesting topic. This year is the year of the villain. From Kendrick Lamar and Drake to Quavo and Chris Brown, Taylor Swift and Kim Kardashian about something that happened almost 10 years ago. This year is the year of the villain, ladies and gentlemen. The year of the drama. The year of the drama, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody's clip is loaded this year. Everybody wants a piece, ladies and gentlemen, this year of somebody. Oh my goodness, it's getting real. But there was no beef thus far, or any beef that there will be, bigger than that of Kendrick Lamar and Drake, ladies and gentlemen. There will not be another. This is it. We have to appreciate it because we got it. And ladies and gentlemen,
it's all over now.
It's all over, ladies and gentlemen. It's all over. God damn.
Halfway.
It's getting ridiculous out here. Now, hopping into the beef. Let's go straight for it. Let's go straight for it, ladies and gentlemen. But before we do, we have a message from our sponsors. They just wanted to share a quick message for us. Let us know, what the energy is for today.
If Drake and Kendrick Lamar got in a rap battle, who do you think would win?
Got to go with Kendrick. I'm just saying. I think Drake is an outstanding entertainer, but Kendrick, his lyrics.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from the former POTUS himself, but Kendrick Lamar, his lyrics. Ladies and gentlemen, it's clear. It's clear who the winner is, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to dive deep into that. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we got to correct our perception. We have to correct our perception, right? Because there's a lot of discussions around this particular beef, everything that went on, everybody's chiming in, and I think there needs to be a correction here, right? There needs to be a correction. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't real life. This is two rich niggas rapping about their quarrel with one another, competing to call themselves the best of rap. It's as clear as that, ladies and gentlemen. It's as clear as that. Okay? So everyone calm yourselves down. Calm yourselves down, right? It's all hyperbole, ladies and gentlemen. It's all hyperbole, right? You remember when we used to joan as kids, right? And we would say something funny that got the whole class to laugh, right? But then there was that one joke that was made to that one kid that might have came in every day with a distinct odor. And somebody said something like, boy, you smell like tin cans, bounce that ass. And then the class went crazy. It was funnier than regular funny because there was some legitimacy to the joan itself. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what it is. It's hyperbole. At the end of the day, when you're joning and you're saying things, it's not true. The whole point of it all is to draw a reaction, right? But when you say something, when you throw a jab that connects in some way, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, that's when you have premium shock value, ladies and gentlemen. Premium shock value. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is when you know you got a loaded clip. And to me, that's what this beef was in a nutshell, right? And of course, we're going to dive a little bit deeper, but I just want everyone to correct their perception. It was all hyperbole, right? Everyone's debating, oh, is this true? Is that true? Is it fact? Is it fiction? Is it that? Is it this? Like, ladies and gentlemen, it's just hyperbole, okay? It's not real, right? Nobody's pulling up on anybody at the end of the day, right? It's just hyperbole. It's just joking. It's just cracking fun, right? And quite honestly, it sort of is reflective of Black culture, right? When we talk about the element of competition in rap, right? It's sort of relative to that, right? How Black culture merges with the competition of hip hop relative to the culture of joning, right? It's all about besting your opponent in any way possible. And a large part of that is how you draw a reaction from viewers, from the crowd, and XYZ. And that's what this is about, right? So ladies and gentlemen, calm down for a minute, all right? We know who your favorite is. We clearly know who your favorite is. Now, going into the results, ladies and gentlemen, I want to first address fans. I think it's very important to address fans when we talk to the point of the results of this beat, because I think that's one important thing that we were able to learn from this. And it's quite honestly that Drake fans are emotionally uneducated blind people. Oh my God. He just made a controversial statement. No, I'm being real, right? Like if you call yourself a Drake fan, right? If you're listening to this beef, ladies and gentlemen, and you're tuning in, and at the result of all of this, you think Drake won this, quite honestly, ladies and gentlemen, you are confused. You are quite honestly confused.
Nigga, yeah, Drake! Drake!
Ladies and gentlemen, you are quite honestly confused if you think Drake came out of this on top. Now, don't get me wrong. I think all in all, it was good for the culture. It was something that we needed before we called it all said and done. But as a Drake fan, when you listen to these tracks, track for track, my biggest thing about Drake, which we'll get into more in a second, is that his largest claims were just so outlandish that it kind of took away from how they hit, you know, when the dust settles and you look back at it, right? And it's like, one thing we know is that the fans are going to follow you till the cows come home, and I respect that about Drake fans, but you gotta somewhat, in a way, try to be objective, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we dive deeper, because it's like when Kendrick dropped, it was quiet. But the minute Drake came with anything, there was this mass overload of anything anyone could find to put Drake on top. Now, on the other standpoint, when we talk about the Kendrick fans, I really truly believe that there is Kendrick fans, while I think they are as functional as Drake fans in terms of like how you're able to propel your artist, or, you know, the person that you're rooting for, to the top. I think they're as stanny as Drake fans, but at the same time, I feel like they're a neglected breed that will forever live on in the archives of hip hop. And I mean that in a way where it's like a lot of what Drake or Kendrick fans appreciated about this particular bout is how lyrical and how complex Kendrick Lamar was. But that being a strength in an artist, the other side really looked at that like it was sort of a deficiency. And there were a lot of commentators out there who felt the same as well. And It's just interesting how core elements of hip hop, lyricism, complexity, like, in being methodical could take away from an artist's approach when it comes to presenting themselves. Now, one thing the rap beef proved to me, when we really look at it, right? The rap beef proved that when the best of hip hop pops out, other music genres are insignificant. When the best of hip hop pops out, other music genres are insignificant. When we look at the charts and we look at how Taylor Swift and country in general is able to dominate the charts, in Morgan Wallen and Taylor Swift, they're the top of those genres, right? Kendrick Lamar and Drake are the top of these genres, right? And when they pop out, it puts other music genres to shame, right? And I like the fact that they didn't stick to those Friday drops, right? They didn't stick to those industry standards in terms of how this beef went on. They dropped when they wanted to drop, and it had an impact, right? It was something about getting music on a Saturday night or a Friday night or a Sunday night. You know what I mean? It was just so real, right? And live action in a way, right? And when you look at certain artists, it's like so many are so self-conscious about timing and when you're able to release a project. And I just think that, when it really comes down to it, I think if it's something good, it's something good. And when you don't think about the timing so much, it has the ability to have such a great impact. And I think that the fact that that element was sort of, the whole industry standard of dropping music here was sort of negated, and it helped make this all the more enjoyable. Now, with that said, right, like I said earlier, I have Kendrick winning, and here is why I have Kendrick winning. It is quite simple, ladies and gentlemen. Kendrick won this because he had the best verse and the best songs, period. He had the best verses and the best songs, period, right? And he dropped more considerable jabs in music as a whole, right? The music that Kendrick Lamar dropped, it connected in terms of providing beef content better than Drake's music, right? And I say that because a lot of people and I think the most, like, the most undervalued sleeper track of this entire beef was Meet the Grams. Everyone made it about the shock value and what we later found out to be false. But regardless of the statement of you're hiding a child and many others, I think that it was more, again, hyperbole, alluding to the fact that, or alluding to an earlier bar in the song where he mentions, your father got into sex work, right? And I apologize for that, right? And so, that song was about talking to Adonis from the perspective of how Kendrick Lamar was invalidating Drake as a man and a father. It wasn't so much about what people made it about with the shock value. Like that's what made people say, oh, that was the attention grabber, but it wasn't in a nutshell what the song was about. And so when Drake followed up with stating that we fed you information, okay, but that was only one aspect of that particular song. And then even when we talk about the bigger tracks in Euphoria and Not Like Us, we're talking about the overall jab of Kendrick Lamar, right? Not Like Us being more than just about the whole pedophile claims. The pedophile claims was just the shock value. And again, he wasn't directly calling Drake a pedophile, even though there were creepy allusions to him messing with younger women that helped add value to the statement. But it was also the fact that one of the guys in your crew has an open, sexual assault charge, right? That really added to the whole jab itself, right? But the song Not Like Us was a bop. It was to prove to the audience that I can give you something that's mass appealing, and it is, and it still is, even to this day. And then at the same time, really address this person, right? More than just, and it was also, like we said, back to the hyperbole, even in the fact that, okay, maybe this isn't very true, but a diss track is about gaining or garnering that attention as well. And it did that. And it also did that in a very musically and artistic way, so in a nutshell, it's like from a musical perspective, from an artistry perspective, Kendrick Lamar, and just from a musical perspective, from an artistry perspective, and from the nature of beef in and of itself, Kendrick Lamar dominated in so many different ways. And I think it was a really weak move by Drake to come back sort of emotional. And I think it was very emotional, because it's like, even with the fans responding, fans were just very quick to say, that's not true. So the entire diss track doesn't matter. No, that was just one aspect to get your attention, to get you to listen. Right. So I just feel like in Drake following up in, stating, you beat your wife, molested as a kid, your child is not yours. I think those were weak jabs, and I don't think that they connected well, because saying you have a hidden child out there and saying that the child that you post in pictures and you got on an album cover is not yours is a very large claim on a song where you also say, I'm telling no lies, I'm telling straight facts, I promise you I'm telling the truth, right? But you say all of this and you don't provide any direct proof besides the fact that what I'm saying is true. If you really want to win this rap beef, like, just give people the proof. If you gave people the proof, you would win this today. But it's as if he was just saying it and saying, believe me. Like, you stated a very outlandish and wild claim and then just said, oh, just believe me. I'm telling the truth, no lies. When if you could provide facts, you would win this rap beef easily. Anybody knows that. So I just feel like that really discounted the entire Heart Part 6 that he dropped. And while I do appreciate the effort of the Heart Part 6 and the creativity around it and even naming a track that, and I give it its props when we talk about the ratings, I just feel like in a lot of ways, even like every song after Push-Ups, like, I just feel like Drake was talking a lot about a lot. And I still hate to this day the whole 20 versus 1 claim, because Drake is responding to people that don't have to respond back to him. Like, they're not actively in this ring with you. Like, it's you and Kendrick. Like, everybody else is a side quest. So, even though I do think it was proper for you to address them on Family Matters, give them the first beat switch and then move on to Kendrick, even though that's pretty much what he did. But it's like, I think he spent a little bit too much time bouncing around too many different things. And I think it's because, quite honestly, he didn't have a lot to talk about, and it gave him enough to drag out a song. I think that a lot of the songs were very much dragged out with just saying a bunch of stuff, with a little bit of shock value with no clear proof. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like if you really wanted to win this, if the ammo that you presented was really real, you would have given us cold hard facts and you would easily win this, but you didn't. And for that reason, it just sort of takes away from it. And then to the other standpoint, when we talk about your ability to provide us good music, I'm just going to be real with everybody, and this might sound crazy. Did Drake actually give us any memorable diss track in this entire beef? Was there a memorable diss track by Drake in this entire beef? Besides naming something the Heart Part 6, which I'll probably never listen to again, because quite honestly, the talking at the end and the how you posed certain concepts of angles your angle on different aspects of the song was just like the mother eye bar. It's just, I get it. It sounds like something, but it just didn't connect to me. You know what I'm saying? It just wasn't okay. And it's like that song wasn't even about that. You know what I mean? I just feel like there was so much missed by Drake, being who he is, having such an opportunity to capitalize off of this situation. And do I think that was the goal of Drake? Not at all. I mean, I think it was his goal to just be active in the rap beef, but it's like, I feel like you had the greatest opportunity to do something great or be as great as we know you to be. But I think that a lot of the way you are now as Drake, you're not able to be because of the cultural legitimacy that was posed in question by Kendrick Lamar. There's a lot that you couldn't embody and foreshadow because of that, in my personal opinion. Right? I just feel like that there was a true trump card for Drake, and I don't think that he really bounced back well. So, I mean, quite honestly, Drake fans, calm down. I know you're going to come at me, but at the end of the day, if there is a Drake song that you feel like is going to be memorable from all of this, drop it in the comments. Let me know. And I'll talk to you guys a year from now to see if we're still talking about it. But I guarantee you, Not Like Us, Euphoria, those are two songs that are going to pretty much carry. I think they're going to stay on Billboard maybe until the end of June, quite honestly, especially Not Like Us, because I mean, summer's rolling around and that's starting to become more and more of a club song. Like, everybody wants to say A minor, like, bruh, like that bar right there was just crazy in and of itself. Now, ladies and gentlemen, again, I think, like I mentioned earlier, what it comes down to, ladies and gentlemen, is what was the most memorable, who was the most memorable, what track was the most memorable, and who was the most memorable in terms of how they presented themselves throughout the beef. And I think at the end of the day, you can argue back and forth all you want to, but you have to give it to Kendrick Lamar in that regard. Was it a clean sweep? No. Because, again, there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of opinion, there's a lot of fandom on both sides. But when you ask the question, who impacted the gray area more? I would say it was Kendrick Lamar, right? Who impacted that area of music listeners that weren't so biasly Drake or biasly Kendrick? I believe that was Kendrick Lamar, quite frankly. Call it what you want to. Disagree with me if you want to. Drop it down in the comments if you like. But ladies and gentlemen, that's clearly how I have it. I haven't looked at any publications yet. I've been waiting to do this so I can, because there's certain podcasts I love. But I just don't want to reiterate, be redundant, or say something that I heard from them. So I'm giving you fresh takes, ladies and gentlemen. After this, I'm done talking about this. I don't think there's more. I think they're just, I don't think there's more to come, even though I think Kendrick might pop out with something. I'm interested to see how he does his next album rollout, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here are my rankings in terms of all of the songs that dropped. One song I'm not going to mention at all because I feel like it takes away from Drake's ability, or even Drake fans' ability, to say that he won in any regard. I just feel like it was overall horrible and should have never dropped. Was apparently there is a Buried Alive remix by Drake out there, which everybody pretty much neglected. So, I mean, let's not talk about it. Don't go find it because it was pretty bad. I mean, it's like it wasn't bad, but it was just like, this not even worth it. Like, you should have never done this, bro. That's what that was. So these are my rankings, ladies and gentlemen. These are my rankings on the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be shocked. At number 8, I have Tailor Made. Tailor Made, ladies and gentlemen. Why is Tailor Made at number 8? Because while I think it was a very clever track and it came at a great time that put a lot of Kendrick fans back against the wall, I think when we look at what was produced throughout the course of all of this, it was corny. like feeding into the AI. Now once the dust has settled, like feeding into the AI stuff, it was corny. It was corny, and quite frankly, while it was clever, it's just like it's like once the cultural illegitimate statements were made and you doing this Snoop Dogg and Tupac, it just became corny. And it's another one of those tracks that I feel like at this point could be neglected completely, could be totally forgotten. I mean, it'll be one of those things we say, remember when Drake did AI? Like, exactly. So I think that it honestly, very close to the Buried Alive track, takes away from Drake's stance or vantage point in anyone attempting to say that he won this. It did come at a great time, but now that we look at everything that has been produced, all of the tracks, shots from both sides, what Kendrick produced and what Drake produced, it was the worst of Drake, and it was the worst overall, in my opinion. Next up is Push Ups. While this really sounded the alarm following the Like That verse, it sounded the alarm on the beef. When we look at the angle of Drake in addressing Kendrick Lamar, because I don't really care about anyone else, honestly. I think, like I said, everyone else is a side quest. Kendrick Lamar and Drake is the main event. And I think Push Ups, it didn't really say anything. It just said, you're short. That's it. Like that was the main bar, the most memorable part of Push Up. You're short, and then a claim of you in a 50-50 deal, or, you know, let's see the splits or what have you, right? But it was interesting because when it came to dropping Kendrick Lamar's initial diss track and Drake dropping his initial diss track, he didn't initially drop anything on digital streaming platforms. And I think that's largely to do with label consideration. Kendrick Lamar didn't waste time. He did it the way that he wanted to when he wanted to. And there's a lot of subliminals around when he dropped, the date he dropped, XYZ, that a lot of people could say, or a lot of people are theorizing. And I'm sorry, that was number 7. That was number 7. Push Up, I got at number 7. And the reason why I got that confused is because at number 5 I have a tie. At number 5 I have 616 in LA, as well as The Heart Part 6. Right, no pun intended with the sixes. But I have 616 in LA and The Heart Part 6 tied at number 5. And the reason why this is the case is because while I think 616 in LA is a great song, produced well, it was released very randomly on his Instagram. I get it. Never hit digital streaming platforms. Was a great song, and I feel like a lot was addressed. I feel like it was one of those tracks where I'm just talking to you, Drake, and nobody else. And so a lot of these rankings, I think, are memorability, impact, and just overall substance. And, you know, so I just feel like 616 in LA, I think, could be forgotten, even though it's one of my favorite beats. I just feel like, you know, it was less for the spectator or the commentator and more about, hey, Drake, I'm talking to you now. But I think that it had the impact over The Heart Part 6, and I put it slightly in the lead, but I can't put it completely ahead of The Heart Part 6. And so the reason why I have The Heart Part 6 here tied at number 5 is because, quite honestly, while I think it was a clever song title, and it was the one that ended it all, it was the last track to come. You know, it's like Drake just made very outlandish statements, such as you beat your wife, and again, your kid isn't yours. You know, it's day freeze. Your girlfriend doesn't follow you on Instagram, or your wife doesn't follow you, or your fiance doesn't follow you on Instagram. What's really going on? X, Y, and it's like, you tried to make this claim like I fed you information. You try to make this claim like I fed you information and you took the bait, but it's almost as if the information you're feeding on this track is everything that you could gather from social media or certain commentators that were putting information out there throughout the course of the beef. So it was no real dirt that I think you dug up or presented first. And I think a part of that you could attribute to the internet being so fast at things. But at the same time, I just feel like all in all, like the shock value and how you tied that into making a song was a very weak approach. It was like very direct. And again, if you knew something, if you had the real dirt, giving us actual factual primary source proof would end it. And I think it would really give you the edge to say that you won if you were the one who to really expose something, but you didn't. Like you didn't. And toward the end of the track, you state as if everything you're saying is fact and everything Kendrick is saying is fiction. But just because Kendrick mentioned something about an illegitimate child doesn't mean everything he mentioned throughout the beef was false, right? There were a lot of songs talking about a lot of things beyond just what the attention grabber was. And I think Drake's response was targeted in a way to make things seem like that so that people wouldn't consider some of the realness that Kendrick was saying. Like the realest thing that Drake said was, "You're short." And again, this is all hyperbole. It's all about how you are able to impact an audience of viewers. And I think that those are strong statements. And I think it's also about how you're able to turn one's fans against them, right? How can you say you like this person or you're a fan of this person and this person does this, right? But it's like when you say a person beats their wife, that's a serious claim. That's not like some stuff like where it's like something to play with. You know what I'm saying? And in the same way, it's like calling Drake a pedophile is the same thing, but it's like there's literal, actual supporting evidence to some nature of that. And again, I think that it's hyperbole. He isn't maybe actually a pedophile, but you talking to younger women and somebody stating that about you is really funny. It's really shocking. It's really gravitating. So and then spending the end of that track to just talk and not rap and then say I'm done, I think is really weak. So that's why it's at this point in my list. I don't think that any of these songs are bad, with the exception to how Tailor Made has aged and the one we're not even going to mention anymore. But yeah, I mean, that's where I have it. And then at number 4, I have Meet the Grams. I just feel like from an appealing standpoint, this wasn't really appealing, but at the same time, it was very methodical. It was very interpersonal. And I think it's one of those tracks that people are going to recall for quite some time. I think it's a very underrated track. I feel like Kendrick Lamar was talking about a lot on this track. And I think he really got real. I think he really got up close and personal with Drake about the stuff that he was talking about. And, I think it's the perfect way to address your opponent while not having so much, shock value evidence of something. So he talked about a lot on this song. One of the bars that stick out is, I wish Adonis, I wish your grandfather wore a condom, alluding to Drake's antics. I think it was very methodical. It was very interpersonal, and it was a straight up missile attack. And I think it was very much more than just about this illegitimate child. I think that was just there to get your attention. But there was a lot realer than just that spoken of on the song. And again, hyperbole, ladies and gentlemen. We're not so much concerned about fact or fiction here, but it's about the impact and how one's fans and how a general audience of listeners would process that or how it would impact them. And then at third, I have Family Matters. I think this was Drake's best track throughout the entire beef. While I do think it was a little bit too talky, the beat was amazing. The last beat was amazing. Quite a few of the beats were amazing. The way that you addressed all of the side quest individuals was great. The visuals were great, and I think that without the visuals, it may not have hit as hard. I'm just going to be real with you, because I feel like that track, Family Matters, directly addressed the nature of Euphoria and having the beat switches and really talking that talk through different angles. I think it was his strongest track, and I think he could have built on that and did so much more. But I think he missed the mark with following up with the Heart Part 6. Quite honestly, it just, I feel like you should have really then responded to Kendrick's nature and giving people something they could really bop. Or, but again, I get that you wanted to keep up lyrically, but it's like you can't. Like I don't really think that's Drake's bag at all, like lyricism. But he tried to keep up, and I feel like he missed the mark in that regard. But if he was able to some degree, that would have really helped him make a claim. But I think that his attempt at trying to be lyrical on the Heart Part 6, it missed all in all. And the talking at the end and the I'm speaking facts, it just really took away from what it was. At number 2, I have Euphoria. While I do think that it's very debatable as to whether or not this was the best or the second best, I have Euphoria at number 2 just because it as a diss track is very memorable. It's very impactful. It hit. And when this one dropped, it was like, yeah. It solidified who we know Kendrick Lamar to be, and to see Kendrick Lamar in a legitimate rap beef. This is how we expected him to come. And it is also one of those tracks that had a bop to it. It was mass appealing to some degree as you listen to it, and it aged well with time. It just got better and better and better and better through the silence of Drake, and then it even lived after. And a lot of what it mentioned, Kendrick Lamar carried over into other songs to further elaborate, which is why I have Not Like Us at number 1. Kendrick Lamar, what I feel, has given us one of the most memorable diss tracks of this modern era of music. I think Not Like Us will live next to Hit 'Em Up, Piggy Bank, and so many others, just because of the status of these two titans being Drake and Kendrick, and it just being the best song in the overall battle. I'm just going to be real with you. Call it what you want to call it, say what you want to say, but whether you're a Drake fan or not, you're going to hear Not Like Us in somebody's club, in somebody's car, on somebody's radio. It's going on somebody's TikTok. This is one of those songs that's going to live. It's going to live. Ladies and gentlemen, and that's my rankings. That's my rankings of this beef, all in all, ladies and gentlemen. Now, one last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here, ladies and gentlemen, because I think it's an important topic to talk about when we talk about the culture of hip hop, when we talk about rap music, and when we talk about the culture of commentary. And, when we talk about this rap beef and what the overall conversation around this is, or what the overall outcome of this beef is from the standpoint of what it presented and how it puts a dent in one or the other's career. Like I said, I feel like Kendrick came out on top. I don't feel like Kendrick lost in any way. I think Kendrick Lamar is going to drop an album this year, and I think that he's going to further address this. I think that he's going to have Whitney on a song. I think there's just so many things, there's so many angles, there's so many types of albums Kendrick Lamar can give us to follow up with this. And it's going to be the best album of this year if it drops this year because of the momentum from this. And we'll talk more about my theory on that in a second. But in terms of Drake, I feel like while his core fan base is going to stick with him regardless, I feel like there's a part of the gray area of spectators that where Drake is sort of going to be, he's going to be neglected in some way. And what I mean by that is I just feel like Drake is not going to be as respected, right? And this is one thing that Kendrick Lamar talked about throughout the beef, right? You got the money, you got the fame, but you don't got the respect. And I think a lot of this was about Drake gaining that respect. And I think that with claims of being a culture vulture, right, and his cultural legitimacy being in question, which is still in question, and it was never addressed by Drake throughout the entire beef. I feel like when we talk about the gray area of fans and even Kendrick fans, it will always be that layer that people continue to ding Drake for. And while I don't think that it'll really impact his overall career because he has such a strong core fan base, you know, to real hip hop listeners, it's a thing. But in talking about the last thing I want to get at here is culturally unaligned commentators as it relates to this particular beef, as it relates to a hip hop conversation between two black artists and the claims of a U.S. born, Compton raised rapper in Kendrick Lamar and a Canadian who was raised by a Jewish woman in Canada. And the cultural legitimacy of that individual who at some point in time became a trap rapper. Right? You went from this singy, rappy, talking about my life, talking about my love interests, making music that women appeal to type of guy, to rapping about, you know, I got hitters and I spin on you, all it, like, you know what I mean, and making music with artists who align with that. And it's like, that's not you, that's never been you, and I get why you're doing it. It's very culture vulture-esque. It's very industry plant-esque, right? And a lot of culturally unaligned commentators, while a lot of people are saying things like Drake won, da-da-da, woo-woo, it's like, let's be really real about this, right? When we talk about, and to get a little bit more specific about what I mean by culturally unaligned commentators, what I mean is white men, Asian men, Indian men, Spanish men, individuals who did not grow up in an environment that was that cultivated hip hop, quite honestly, in my opinion, should understand that they are visitors to this culture with a guest pass, and it's limited. Yeah, I'm talking about you, DJ Vlad. I'm talking about you, Peter Rosenberg. Right? Just because you stand next to Ebro to make yourself a little bit more legitimate, right? You're still in the conversation, right? And so many others. I mean, there's other duos and groups of individuals who've risen in popularity, right? But it's a very real thing that you have to understand, because when we're talking about two black guys and we're talking about an element of black culture, which is inevitable when we talk about rap beef, because it comes from that, right? The whole competition of rap comes from black culture, right? And it's something that we understand that others don't. And when we're having a conversation about the cultural illegitimacy of Drake and why he struggles to be a respected individual, not only in the rap game, but by individuals in general, right? You have to understand where that comes from. There was a question posed that I forget. I heard it, and I think it was Charlemagne. He stated, could you imagine if there was a black artist who got peed on and did nothing about it? Like, if The Game or 50 Cent or even Kendrick Lamar got peed on by somebody and did nothing about it, like, would they still be a legitimately respected individual? No, they wouldn't. But how does Drake get a pass? Right? Because we as spectators, we as those who are a part of the culture, we know who he is. We know he's not a tough guy. We know he's not, and not that you have to be a tough guy to be a part of the culture, but it's certain things, in certain ways that you're raised. If you are a part of that culture, it's just certain things that you don't let fly, right? You got to address it, win, lose, or draw. You can't go out like no quote unquote bitch. So, you know, I'll keep it short there because I know it's a sensitive topic for a lot of people, but we have to understand that culturally unaligned commentators are on a guest pass. You are not here permanently. You are a temporary subject in this domain. Like it or not, there are certain things that you need to shut the fuck up about, that you can't really speak on. You're never going to be able to be a 100% contributor to the culture. You might have a fan base. You might have people that listen to you. You might be able to call on a black person to help validate your stance. Right? You might be able to talk about the music theory and how you felt about the music, but there will always be an element that you will never be able to connect to. So your commentary will always be half meaningful. It could never be fully incorporated. And quite frankly, anything that you produce for your own consumerist or capitalistic gain within the spectrum of the industry is culture vulture tendencies, whether you like it or not. You as a white man or a Spanish man or a Indian man or an Asian man, you are weaponizing. You are racially weaponizing yourself. It is racial weaponization. Strong claim, I know. But it's just like, there are just certain things that when it comes to the culture, you just got to understand, right? It's like, I could never tell a person what Asian culture is and how things are or XYZ, but I can tell you what about that culture is influenced by another culture. And that's the reason why I might be able to talk about it. Strong claim, ladies and gentlemen. Look it up if you got a problem with it. Now, moving forward, my next hope for hip hop. My next hope for hip hop is that I hope the younger artists and the current artists who are in the industry learn from this. I know that hip hop has evolved. I know that there's versions of music out there that individuals enjoy. But understand that if you are in the industry now, you're nowhere near close to the status of Drake and Kendrick Lamar for a reason. And you will never be there for a reason. Because when it comes to your ability to exist in this realm of hip hop, you have to have, number one, respect. In order to make it to the level that Drake and Kendrick are, you have to have a level of respect. And we talk about Drake lacking that in some way, but when we really look at it, Drake was able to gain respect from an audience of listeners because of the influence of Wayne, Nicki, and Birdman. Once he got put on by those individuals, we were able to say, okay, this is a respected individual. Right? And we all knew it, but it was up until this point where the most respected made us come to the reality of the fact that, well, the respect that you give this person is not legitimately aligned with the culture. And I think that that's the L that Drake took here. He will never be able to gain the respect or full respect within the domain of hip hop and music because of the L he took today. And you might ask yourself, how did Kendrick gain that respect? It's not because he's from Compton. It's not because he's black. It's not because he came up with Top Dog. It's not because of what it's because his talent. He showed that he could embody the essence of hip hop and music as a whole. And he did it in a great way. And he did it in a culturally revering way as well. He did it in a culturally revering way as well. He came onto the scene and immediately spoke from who and what he is. He was true and authentic, and at the same time was talented in his rap ability. And he was able to appeal while maintaining that level of lyricism, that hip hop essence. My next hope, ladies and gentlemen, is that the youth, young artists learn from this. Because the biggest question that I've been asking throughout all of this is, while Drake is deemed himself number 2 by the loss he took in this particular beef, and Drake and Kendrick Lamar being number 1, who's next? Who's the next Jay-Z and Nas? Who's the next Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, KRS-One? Who's the next LL Cool J and XYZ? Who's the next Jay-Z and Nas? Kanye West. Who are the next number 1 guys that we have to look forward to? Because we are still living off of artists that really broke out from the time span of late 2000s to 2015. Like, those artists are still the top artists in the rap game, and everyone after is still struggling to remain relevant. Like, will somebody just come out of nowhere? Like, who's next? We got to really start thinking about that, ladies and gentlemen. My next hope is that Kendrick Lamar drops an album. I hope that Kendrick Lamar drops an album, and I hope it's a surprise album. I hope he doesn't tell us when it's coming. I hope he just drops it. And I also hope that he drops The Heart Part 6. Regardless of what Drake did, I feel like he should drop The Heart Part 6, let it be something hard, and it'll overshadow the fact that Drake attempted to cleverly make something, and it was actually like something that we're going to just neglect in the future anyway. I think that he should still name it The Heart Part 6. I think he should drop a surprise album, because if he does, all of that impact from the surprise of these beef tracks will help propel that project as high as some of these songs were. I think he's going to let some of these songs ride out for a while because maybe he doesn't want to step on them because of the success that they're receiving. I quite honestly think Not Like Us might win a Grammy for Best Rap Song, which is another crazy reality that might come as well. Because I think it's gonna stay there. I mean, it's a good song. I mean, it's very memorable. Like a diss track winning Rap Song of the Year to be the first of its kind, and another accomplishment by the Pulitzer Prize winner. But I think that also, I think J. Cole is dropping too, and I think that it'll be interesting if Kendrick Lamar and Drake drop in the same year, because Drake doesn't have that Grammy yet for Best Rap Album. And it'll just be another sort of hilarious sort of pun to it all for Kendrick to step on J. Cole when it comes to the beef. But I think J. Cole's probably going to drop in the December time frame to play off of his usual album drop time frame. So it'll probably count for 2025 rather than 2024. But those are my hopes, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. That's all I had. I hope you appreciated the show today. We went a little bit long, but, we had to wrap this up. Ladies and gentlemen. And it's sad, ladies and gentlemen, that we have to say it's over.
It's all over now.
It's sad, ladies and gentlemen, that we got to say it's all over. But I'm going to send you home with something nice. A tune that you might remember.
So long, farewell to you, my friends. Goodbye for now, until we meet again. I say so long, farewell to you, my friends. Goodbye for now, until we meet again.
Ladies and gentlemen, peace. Thank you for watching another episode. Jordan Reviews It. We coming. And we not stopping.